Well, hey, boys and girls, welcome to another exciting episode of Issues, the political talk show that's sure to make you scream and shout and run down to your neighbor's house and go, "You got a cup of coffee I can borrow?" Well, anyway, let's get right down to it, shall we? You know what happened last month that really bothered me? That tragic incident in Boston. That's right, folks. A lot of innocent people got hurt because a couple idiots decided that they wanted to go and make a scene. And you know what? I don't think that's right at all, folks. And I don't condone that. I think it's despicable what they did. But you know what else is despicable about that tragedy is how the government took over and the police department came in and locked down the whole entire city. I mean, Boston's a pretty big place, folks, and there's a lot of people there. And they successfully shut down all the transportation, all the bridges and highways. Everything was closed. And then what they started to do was go door to door and do home invasions, basically, where they were taking families out of their house and putting them in the yard while they would go through house by house. Now look, there was only a couple people involved with this, and yet they decided to go through hundreds and hundreds of homes. And they didn't find these guys there, of course, but you know, they found a lot of other stuff, and I'm going to be interested to see what's happening with those poor people. But you know, the good news was that they found out who did it, and they found out pretty quickly. And you know how they found out? By using cameras. They're everywhere, folks. So smile. You're on candid camera, because anywhere you go now, you're being watched, whether you like it or not. Get used to it. Just don't run around with your pants down around your knees, or maybe you do that and like it, I don't know. If you're going to do that, just go without your pants at all. That way we understand where you're coming from. Well, now, speaking of coming from, how about Syria, folks? You know, I've been talking about this mess for a long time. You know, the government there has been on our blacklist for a while now. You know, it just won't seem to go away. I think we're just not going to go away. The rest of the world wants us to leave these people alone, but yet for some reason we can't do that, and I'm not sure why. And now, you know, they've been talking about this chemical weapons bullshit again, and sure enough, the chemical weapons have finally been used, and they're saying, oh, the Assad regime did it, and the Assad regime saying, no, it's the rebels that did it. Now, where in the world would these rebels be able to get chemical weapons from? I wonder, who possibly would have given them some chemical weapons? Yeah, well, you know, and whose side are we rooting for? Oh, the rebels. Well, I don't think that takes much more thinking than that. But you know what? Just when I thought we were done with that, Israel comes in and starts dropping more bombs. They're going to bomb the bombs that are going to go to bomb the bombs that are going to bomb the bombs. And now there's a big mess where the rebels are against us, the government's against us, the rest of the world's against us, and yet we are going to stand behind Israel. You know what this reminds me of, folks? You ever have one of those friends that you couldn't take anywhere? You know, you go to the bar and you get in a fight at the end of the night, or you go to a restaurant and they start talking shit about the people sitting next to you. Well, you know what? That's what Israel's starting to remind me of, folks. It's a big pain in my ass, and I sure wish that they'd get their act together. Well, speaking of pains in the asses, how about that Obama guy, huh? He had a press conference, and you know what? I was pretty impressed. He came out and he started talking about the Gitmo and the mess there and the hunger strikes and how we have to close that because it's inciting terrorists. And man, that was one of the best things I've heard in a long time. And you know what I say about Gitmo? I'll tell you how to get rid of Gitmo. One big swoop, boom, it's gone. No more Gitmo to worry about. But get the people out of there first and then get rid of Gitmo, because you know what? We don't need it. Nobody on this planet needs a place like that harbors terrorists and torturers and thieves and crooks. Oh yeah, that's right, that's our people. Oh well, you know, that's another story. So, you know, Obama's there and he's talking in his press conference and he's like going, Well, I'm not going to jump to conclusion on who's using weapons of mass destruction. And you know what? That was the smartest thing he said in a long time, too. Because you know what? He won't admit it that our side that gave them the chemical weapons are using them now. He won't admit that. But at least he didn't go and say the other guys are using them like the press did. Like 2 hours after his press conference, the news was already saying Syrian using the weapons of mass destruction. Well, you know what? I was almost liking him there. You know, Obama, he was talking straight, and I was digging what he was saying. And then he got to his Obamacare plan. And, you know, he's like, well, most of my plan is in effect now. And, oh, you know, there's only a small percentage of people that are facing the dilemma that, one, they can't afford health care, and two, because of the medical records being all electronic now, that the insurance companies can see what's wrong with your son, and if he's got a condition that they're going to rake you over the coals, because in Obamacare they don't have any price fixes set yet. The hospitals and doctors can still charge, and the insurance companies are still going to charge whatever they deem fit. And you know what? They just released a report today saying out of 100 hospitals, not one of them charged the same price. So that's what you got to deal with. And you know what? That makes me pretty sad. And here I was liking him, and man, you know, change? Nah, man, no change at all. Well, this really blows my mind, folks. You know, I'm listening to NPR last week, and they're talking to the oil executives, and they're all proud and saying, Monterey Bay is going to be one of the next resources to be tapped because there's billions and billions of gallons of gas and millions of gallons of natural gas that we're all going to need here in the near future to keep our economy strong and stable. And I was like thinking, well, that's a crock of shit, but you know what? This Monterey Bay thing's probably right. And you know, here I did a little bit of research, and it turns out, yeah, Monterey Bay has got one of the biggest shale supplies of natural gas in the world right now. And you know what happened, folks, is that sonar testing that we banned, you know, we said, you guys, you can't do that sonar testing. Well, you know, they did it anyway, and it killed a bunch of our fish that washed up on shore. But they found for a fact that we are sitting on this natural reserve of gas and oil that's going to take us into the next century, folks. So, you know what? Guess what? Money talks and bullshit walks. And if you got some money, I say you better get your money down and buy yourself some property and get in on this gold rush. That's right, folks. Just like 1849, you go out there and get a pick and shovels, and you start digging yourself a hole. You're going to hit oil just like Jed Clampett did. Yeehaw! We're all going to be living in Beverly Hills here in Santa Cruz, and all you just people, you just need to get your claims in there. Well, you know what? I got a reporter who, guess what, is right here in town, folks. That's right, Not So Happy Hippo. He's got an interview right here, 17th and Capitola. They're doing some drilling. Hippo, what's going on out there? Well, hello, folks. Not So Happy Hippo here, and I'm on the corner of 17th and Capitola Road in Santa Cruz. That's right, Santa Cruz. You heard me right, folks. And I'm standing here with a representative from, there seems to be some drilling going on here, and we're not quite exactly sure what's going on. Just, sir, if you don't mind telling us what's going on here.
Well, we're doing an experimental research exploratory dig.
What's that?
We're digging a hole.
Well, what are you trying to find?
Well, they're not really telling me. All they say is be prepared for anything.
Prepared? Well, who exactly are you working for?
Well, we're independent contractors.
Okay, but then who hired you?
Some guy named Hal. Hal Burton, I think.
Oh, no. Well, why do you have to have all that concrete back there? What's that going to be used for?
Well, we're prepared to seal this all up real fast if we have to.
Oh, it doesn't sound very safe to me. You know,
Don't worry yourself with that. I gotta go.
well, folks, not so happy hippo here, and I'm not sure, but it looks like they're going to do some fracking here. Well, Spilly, I guess we're going to take that back to you there in the studio at CTV. Whoa, what's that? What's that noise? Oh my God, the ground's rumbling. Ah, shit, I'm out of here, Spilly. Ah! Wow, that's some pretty interesting stuff. Right in our backyard, folks, 17th and Capitola, they're doing their fracking drilling right now to test and see how far down they got to go. That's right, and there's piles of concrete to lock that down in case something goes crazy. Well, anyway, folks, here in Santa Cruz, you all go rush out there and start protesting if you want to, because, well, you know what? You can go out there and protest if you want to, but it ain't going to change anything. We're going to have oil wells sitting out there in the bay before you know it. Or what they'll probably do is build them on land and do that new corner drilling stuff, so we won't have to look at it. We're just going to have to deal with all the mess that it makes afterwards. But hey, that's how society rocks, huh? Woohoo! Anyway, well, folks, I think we're going to get on to the show here. We have some very interesting people from the Sin Barrios place, or Barrios, I'm not sure. It's no bars is what it means for those that you can't speak Spanish as well as I can. But anyway, we're going to talk to them, and then we're going to get on with the show. So stay tuned. Well, folks, here I am with a very special edition interview from our Issues programming station, coming to you directly from Community TV. And tonight I'm doing a very special interview. We're going to actually do this kind of different. On the Issues program, you're going to see an edited version of this interview. If you want to see the whole interview, it's going to be shown as a separate program, so keep your eyes out for that. Or if you go to our website, you can see the whole issues with the whole interview. So there you go. That's the rundown. Let me get started. Tonight I have some very important guests here from the Sin Barrios organization. I have Tash and Zara, and they're here to talk about what's been going on in the Santa Cruz prison here in our county jail. Also, I think we're going to talk a little bit about what's going on with the state prison system too. But let's get right into it. First off, why don't you tell me a little bit about yourself, Tash?
My name's Tash, and I work for Sin Barrios. We've been around for about a little over a year, about. And we're a grassroots organization based out of Santa Cruz. And we work to bring community awareness with conditions that are happening inside state prisons and here in Santa Cruz County Jail, as 4 people have died, as well as how the prison industrial complex affects our community as a whole.
And what about you, Zara?
I think Tash did a really good describing it. We believe in abolition, which has a really long history dating back to the abolition of slavery. So a lot of what we do is look at the prison system, not just in its current moment, but how it has affected us throughout our country's history. And we believe that intrinsically it is a project of racial stigma and is like a tool in our society to repress people. So a lot of what the work we do has a really historical lens to it.
Now, is this a national organization, a California organization, or are we just here in Santa Cruz?
It's just here in Santa Cruz.
Well, it's a good starting point, I would imagine.
Yeah.
Now, how many people do you have in your group?
We have our community group is forming and building kind of as we have more events. We had a demonstration that had about 250 people take the streets downtown, down Pacific Street, all the way down Ocean Street. We had a big demonstration at the county jail where people who have been inside, not just people of color, but also people who are mentally ill, people who are homeless, people who live in poverty, telling stories of how they've been neglected or abused. and like it within on the streets and inside the jail. We're also having a community forum this Friday to talk about next steps and how we can build community power. It's at the Resource Center for Nonviolence this Friday on Ocean Street, 612 Ocean Street, from 6 to 8 p.m.
Now, tell me about the 4 deaths at the Santa Cruz County Jail. Is that right? It was here in our county jail?
Yeah.
What happened there?
Well, recently Santa Cruz has, what is the name of the thing? I always forget it.
It's Santa Cruz decided to privatize, or the Santa Cruz County Board of Supervisors voted in June to save some money and outsource the medical facility to a group called California Forensics Medical Group.
Yeah,
Okay.
and this organization is notorious. They have over 100 lawsuits against them for malpractice. So one of the things that they're doing is they say that they have these special units for people that are detoxing from drugs. As far as we've been able to research, these special units are just a room where the person is put. There's no extra medical attention to them given. All that happens is the guard checks in on them and like makes sure they're not dead. And if they're not dead, then they keep moving. So the 4 deaths that happened in Santa Cruz County Jail were related to people going through detoxification processes from drug addiction.
Indeed. So that's what it was. So it was lack of care for a pretty obvious condition that
Yeah.
these people were going through.
Yeah.
Now, this organization, this California Forensics
Medical
Group, boy, that just sounds horrible. Forensics
know,
is
right?
like studying death, I think. So
Yeah,
it's like,
exactly.
well, maybe that's why they have them there. The California system is pretty much crumbling. From what I'm gathering, it's from the governor all the way down. The governor
Yeah.
seems to think everything's okay. The California courts have said that our jail system's a mess.
Well, yeah, I think when we're talking about this, it's a really good time to kind of like zoom out and look at California as a whole because of realignment, and I'll just explain it for people that don't
Please.
know. In 2009, the California Supreme Court voted that the California prison system like justified cruel and unusual punishment due to overcrowding. And so as people that do work around prisons, this was kind of a moment that we were looking at, right? It was obviously like, okay, what's going to happen next? And what we've seen is that instead of looking at this as an opportunity to start funding things like shelters or providing services for people with mental illnesses, instead what's happened is state prisoners have been pushed into county jails. And county jails, you only stay in for up to a year, right? But now you have people staying in them 2, 3, 4, up to 10, 15 years. So they don't have the facilities to take care of these people in the necessary way. And it's just really just moved around the overcrowding. And that's a lot of what's happening in Santa Cruz Jail right now. I mean, like Santa Cruz jails, all of California jails are at 150% capacity still. So it really,
Santa Cruz being 120.
yeah. So instead of like really fixing the problem, all it's done is moved it around and made it look better on paper, right?
Yeah.
Well, I agree completely. Now, I think the courts have ordered the release of 10,000 inmates, and nobody's followed through with that at this point. And I think a lot of these people that are incarcerated, again, you might know some of the numbers, but are for minor offenses such as drug offenses and nonviolent crimes. And do we actually know what percentage of inmates or incarcerated people are nonviolent or fit into that category, that it's more of the intimidation, fear versus the actual crime?
Yeah, I can tell you that the highest rate of incarceration is due to drug possession, and the second one is due to car stealing, which are both, in my opinion, nonviolent offenses.
Right, right. And do we have an idea what that percentage is? Is it half? Is it a third? More than half?
I think that
Am I just
it could
missing
be
the point
around.
completely?
I don't really know what the statistics are. It is very disproportionate racially, and so what has happened is 3 judges on the California Supreme Court told Jerry Brown 4 weeks ago that what he has done thus far to reduce the prison population is failed. It's inadequate. And so if he doesn't come up with a good plan, he can be held in contempt in court, which is having a giant fine placed on him or being put to prison. So last Thursday, he released his plan, which he didn't even stand for, and he's also going to appeal. And what his plan said is that he's going to release some people early if they displayed good time credit, send some inmates to fire camps to fight wildfires. But that is just such a small fraction. It really adds up to a couple thousand of the 10,000. And really, Zora has a lot of really good points on the nature of the prison industrial complex and the violence it, inflicts as long as it exists.
What kind of help do you guys need? What if you need money? You need people? Why don't you give it? Well, talk to me. Tell me what you need. Talk to those people out there at home and tell them what you need.
We definitely need people. Please come to our meetings. If you have experience organizing, if you don't have experience organizing, all of the above. We provide childcare as well as Spanish translation, if that's helpful. Money is nice too.
Yeah, we're in the midst of creating a PayPal account on our website because right now we're funding ourselves out of pocket. So hopefully, as we create more connections with working groups and stuff, we can really organize community and collaborate with resources that we have.
Well, this is really important, folks out there at home. If you're watching this show and you know somebody that's in jail or that's been incarcerated in one of the facilities and you know what was going on was wrong, here's a chance for you at home to stand up and make a difference to these poor people. There's not a whole lot of people that care for our people in jails, and it's usually only a loved one or a relative that really hears the stories about what's going on behind those bars. And so if you are one of those people, we need your help. You don't have to just sit there at home and be pissed off. You can make a difference. These people are just people like you and me that are out there now trying to make a difference for a lot of people they don't know. And I'd like to see you make a difference for a lot of people you don't know too. So it's not hard. How do we get a hold of you guys again?
You can email us at sinbarras@gmail.com, sinbarras@gmail.com, and also visit our website at sinbarras.wordpress.com.
And then they're looking for money, they're looking for people, they're looking for anybody that wants to get involved with this cause of righting a huge injustice to people. Where do you see yourselves going? What's your big goal now?
We're going to go all the way. No, I think we're setting up a strategy right now of short-term and long-term goals. I mean, our long-term goals are to see a society in which we can deal with harm and violence in a way that does not recreate more harm and violence. The United States has incarcerated more people than any society ever. And that is something that, I don't want to be my legacy. I don't want it to be my children's legacy. This is ridiculous, and it must stop immediately.
Do we have to change legislation to change some of these incarceration rules? Do we need to get some of these crimes off the books? Or do we just, you can't go around saying, don't do that because it doesn't work. What can we do to educate people?
I think, legislation and healthy prison reform that will improve conditions and prevent more people from getting behind bars and in cages is really good. But we also, it's also really important to hold, communities and the grassroots accountable, right? So to provide these front-end resources, fund them, and also practice them on the everyday, to really compassionately care about those who have less than us, or help amplify voices that cannot be heard, and be sure that when we are holding events, we're always very respectful, and we keep in mind that there may be people who don't speak English, and there may be folks that have children. So really making sure that we cover all of those bases and make it really accessible for everyone to come and inclusive.
And then, go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say it's also really, I think, a two-tiered process is the way I envision it, right? So a lot of it is actively decarcerating, actively decreasing the prison population, but you're never not going to have people in jail if poverty is a huge problem, if there's not adequate resources for people with disabilities, if we don't have health care for everyone, if there's not a place for our kids to go that learn an adequate and interesting and dynamic education, right? So all of these things are so connected to the prison system that even if it's not looking directly at the prison and trying to figure out how to stop that institution, if you're in education, if you're in healthcare, all of that is super interrelated. And that can seem like a lot, but it can also be really inspiring because this is something that you can be fighting every day.
So anyway, Tash, Zara, thank you so much for being here. It was a real pleasure getting a chance to talk to you. And
Thanks
like
for
I
having
was
us.
afraid of, a half hour isn't even enough for this topic, folks. It just flew by. Here we are. We got to wrap it up. Get involved with these people. This is really important. That I saw them in the newspaper. They're really making a difference. Now's the time for you people at home to get involved with this crucial issue about trying to put a little bit of justice and humanity into what's a very corrupt system right now, and that's our prison jail system. And what did you call it? An institution? What was your term?
The prison industrial complex.
The industrial complex. Jesus. Folks, please get involved and help these people. Go to their blog page, check that out, give them a call, go to their meetings, give money, give time, give whatever you can give, because it'll help a lot of people who are desperately in need of your help. God bless you. Thank you. Well, folks, that brings us to the close of another episode of Issues, and thanks again for watching. Support Community TV. We have a pledge drive and a membership drive coming up here real soon.